Hi, welcome back to English 111 Online. Last week we read an essay by Larissa McFarquhar. How, um, what was the name of it? I've already forgotten the name of it. I can't believe that. Um, when to remove a child from his parents. That's not exact. When should a child be taken from his parents? So she asked that rhetorical question, and I ask you to find some other things that you observed of choices that she's made and do that in a journal for this week. So I created a label and put it on this week's tab. Um, it's right here under the Core Project 2 Rhetorical Analysis Essay document. Some choices Larissa McFarquhar makes to illustrate her point that the decision to remove a child from his parents is a complex one. And I got those things from your journals that you had written. Of course, this doesn't reflect everyone's journal, but I'm doing this on a Sunday afternoon, and some of you have not even completed your journal yet. But from those that I reviewed, these are some points that you noticed that could be used very well in the essay for this week. So the rhetorical questions, including the actual title of the essay itself, perspective, the parent's perspective, the social worker's perspective, the judge's perspective. A lot of you mentioned that. The narrative of Mercedes itself, the long, I think I called it the movie of the week story of Mercedes and how she had her children taken away from her. And keep in mind, when we're looking at these choices that she makes, why did she put, you want to ask yourself the question, why does she put that long story about Mercedes in there? How does that go to help her make her point that it is a very complex situation? And just in that story itself, you can see how complex it was. It was what Mercedes did. It had to do with social services and what they wanted, the foster parents and what they wanted. There was a lot of information just in that story itself. Others mentioned facts about the law. How does that show how complex it is? Because a lot of times the decision is based on law and not on just feelings. And then cause and effect, the various actions and their results, which was also contained in that narrative of Mercedes. So this week I want you to keep that in mind as you write your essay, and I put some things on here to help you with that. Of course, you can go back and look at the document itself, but I have put this document on here, How to Write a Rhetorical Analysis, and it pretty much goes through and spells out for you as soon as it opens up over here. Spells out for you how to write the rhetorical analysis. Keep in mind as you look at this document that the audience, of course, is going to be me, basically. The instructor, your classmates. Assume that the person that you are writing to, this essay should be for anyone who picks it up and should be able to read it and understand it. And so just pretend that nobody has read the essay about what you're writing. Just write it as if nobody has read it. So you need to give us a little information in there that tells us what it's all about and not assume that we know anything about it. You'll be using MLA format, which is basically Times New Roman font. 12 point is the size of the font, and you'll be using double line spacing. There is a document on there about how to basic MLA format and how it is used, and there's also up under the tab that has the information about how to create a Google Doc, there is information about setting up the MLA format for the document there. So there are two places you can look for that. If you need any help, of course, I can help you with that. And so, but there's information right in this document also. Your header, which would be to insert the page number. So you're not going to insert a heading, you're going to insert page number, and then that way it will automatically number page 1, page 2, page 3 as you type along. Also, you're going to add your last name in front of that page number. The heading, which appears on the left side of the page at the 1-inch margin, and it only shows up on the first page only, would be your name, my name. You could put, Deborah Lee, you could put Professor Lee, whatever you want to put there for the instructor name. Then the name of our course. Our particular course, English 111, is Online 01 or Online 03G, depending on which section you're in. So the example here was from another course. And then you'll put the date. Then your title comes next. It should be centered on the very next line after your heading. And it should relate to the content of your essay, not the assignment itself. So you don't want to call it Core Project 2, or you don't want to call it Rhetorical Analysis Essay. You want it to relate to what it is you're writing about. So, and also you don't want your title to be the same as the author's title. So, I gave an example here, Rhetorical Analysis of How to Do Gender, Establishing Pathos in How to Do Gender. So either something like that would be fine. Then you're ready for your introduction paragraph, which comes on the very next line. Remember, this is all double line spaced, so you don't put extra spaces when you start your paragraphs. We do indent the first line of each paragraph, and to indent, most of you probably already know this, but in case you don't, you just hit your tab key and that will automatically indent that first line. You want to start with something to get the audience's attention. So is it going to be a rhetorical question like the author herself uses? You could use that. Like I said, this is all based on my sample essay that I've written, not anything, I didn't write about what you're writing about, but I wrote about something else. Is it normal for a man to wear an evening dress to a formal dinner, or for a woman to wear a topless outfit when accompanying him? That gets your attention, doesn't it? Well, you want to read on and see what in the world I'm talking about. Another way you could start your introduction is an amazing fact. Like Americans might not be surprised to hear that Europeans describe them as irrationally prudish. And that is something that I got from the essay that I was writing about, the Ferry and Wade essay. You don't have to read that essay in order to look at my sample document. Quotation. An old saying describes little boys as being made of snip snails and puppy dog tails, and little girls being made of sugar, spice, and everything nice. And that is actually the attention getter that I used for my essay. And I'm going to go over that practice or sample essay for you in just a minute and let you see what I did. And then you need to give your reader a summary. What is this about? What are you writing about? And so you want to put information in like I do in my sample essay, and that's what the little summary is there. And then you're going to narrow down from the snips and snails and puppy dog tails down to the point that you're trying to make in your essay. And in this essay, we're trying to show what kind of choices did the writer make in order to illustrate her point. to effectively make the point that she's trying to make. Now, in your essay, the one you're writing about, her point is that deciding the decision to take to when to take a child away from her parents or his parents is not an easy choice. It's a very complex situation. And so of course, you want to also mention what rhetorical strategies you're using, what writer's choices that you're using. You need to mention two. You could do three if you wanted to, and then this would end up being a 5-paragraph essay. But 4 paragraphs is fine for this, your introduction, your 2 body paragraphs, and your conclusion. So you only have to do 2 rhetorical choices or writer's decisions, however you want to call that. And then you will have your body paragraphs. And like I said, I've gotten here 2 to 3 paragraphs. Each paragraph, remember, has a topic sentence. And so what each paragraph is going to be about is a choice that the writer makes. So one choice that she makes, another strategy she uses, and each paragraph would be about the choice that you're speaking of, that you're writing about. And so you want to use a transition word at the beginning, like one rhetorical strategy the authors use as an anecdote. Now, I've used plural authors here because my essay that I was writing about had 2 authors. Yours only has 1, so make sure you get your subject-verb agreement there. So one strategy the author uses. And then when you go to your next paragraph, you're going to include another strategy. In that body paragraph, you're also going to give examples of where those choices are made in the essay. And so we've got introduce. I've got introduce it with a signal phrase. In other words, according to the essay, the author states, something like that, which will be your signal phrase or your introduction in your little quote sandwich. If you've heard it called a quote sandwich, that's the introduction part of your example. And then you are going to, after that, give the evidence from the text. Okay, so we're going to have to summarize it, paraphrase it, or directly quote. When you use the exact words from the essay, that is a direct quotation. It goes in quotation marks. But you can also summarize something, and you can also paraphrase it. In other words, basically change the words up just a little bit so that it's not a direct quote, but it's very similar to what the author herself has written. And then you're supposed to cite where you got that from. And in our case, in this essay, we're going to cite the page number because you're going to have a works cited page that is going to list the essay from our textbook, and then and you're going to give on that citation the page numbers. I give an example of this here for you to follow, but you want to let your reader know, the person who your audience know, you want to let them know where you found that. And so I can go to the text, I can look it up on that page, and I'll be able to find exactly what you're writing about. So you notice that each one of these starts introduce, evidence, and citation, spells out ICE. And so I'm going to talk to you about icing your comments as we go through different parts of this essay, and as we go through our research paper, which will count 20% of our grade. This assignment counts 15% of your grade. We had 5% for the business letter that you wrote, and this is 15%. And then we're going to have an annotated bibliography for your research paper, and then we're going to have the research paper itself. But everything that we write is going to have a topic sentence, it's going to have evidence, and it's going to, you're going to need to ice everything that you give as evidence by introducing it, citing it properly, and then explaining. And so the E part, the explanation part, is in your own words, explain how this works, what the evidence that you found, how does it work to make the author's point that she's trying to make. And so just don't assume your audience is going to be able to figure that out. Just go ahead and give the audience the information yourself, explain it to them. So that's the E part of the icing. Then you will have a conclusion paragraph here. Begin with a restatement of your thesis statement, not word for word. I kind of like to refer to the beginning of a conclusion paragraph. That restatement is like, it's a cousin to your thesis statement. They're not identical twins, so you don't want to just restate it, but state it in words that remind your reader of the point that you were making to begin with, the cousin to the thesis statement, if you will. And then you want to summarize the points that you made. So if you made 2 points in your body paragraphs, you're going to remind your reader what those 2 points were. And then you are going to end your paragraph with a general statement that reminds the reader about the hook that you started with, or the attention getter you started with, or something that you don't want to take your reader off into a different direction from what you've been talking about. Keep it focused on what you've been talking about in your essay, but you do not want to lead into a different subject, and please don't end your conclusion with a question. A question can be used at the beginning, but a question is not good to end something with, because a question needs to be answered, and of course, when you're finished, you don't have any time to answer the question. Then on the very next page, you will do your works cited page. And the works cited page will be like this. It is going to be titled, just like your essay has a title, this page has a title, and it is works cited. And even though you're going to list just one thing on this page, because it's the only citation you'll have is the essay, you're going to end it the word works with an S on it. Even if it's just one, just call it works. And then it's capitalized, each initial caps, works cited, and it is centered on the page just like your title is centered for your essay. And then we're going to use here what we call a hanging indent. The hanging indent means it's the opposite of a paragraph indentation. And so you will have the author's name sticking out here, hanging out. That's why it's called a hanging indent. The author's name will appear at the left margin, just like the rest of the document is. And then you will, the second line or third line, however much, yours will probably be 2 lines like this, is indented. Again, how to set up an MLA Google Doc and all of that can explain this to you, but I think this will be pretty simple to do. So what the works cited entry has is the author's last name, first name, comma, last name, period. These parts of the works cited entry are treated like little sentences. And so the next thing will be the title of the essay. When should a child be taken from his parents? And that always goes in quotation marks. And you will not have to put a period after that, this particular title, because it has its own punctuation in the question mark. Then you will have the title of our book, and for this part, you can just copy it because it will be the same um, for because it's the same text that I got this from. You have the exact same text that I used for this, so you can copy this. The only thing that you can't copy here are the page numbers. But here it is, the name of our textbook, Rereading America, Cultural Context for Critical Thinking and Writing, and that is in italics because this is essay is a smaller part, in this case girl, in this case down here how to do gender, were essays included in our textbook. And so you will replace uh, the name of the essay that you're writing about here, but you can keep the rest of this. Something that is the name of a book, like our textbook, is in italics, comma, it's the 11th edition. Like I said, I'm using the same book now as I did when I created this sample for you, so it's the same thing. Comma, 11th edition, and you can abbreviate edition, ED period. Bedford St. Martin's is the name of the publishing company, comma, the year it was published, 2019, comma, and then your page numbers. You don't put P before it or whatever, you just put the numbers. So this essay girl came from 477 to 479, and you'll put the page numbers that goes with your essay that you're writing about. Okay, so that document, as you can see, is very helpful to let you know exactly what needs to go in your essay. And then I've given you this sample essay. Here's the sample that I've given. I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but just point out some things that you'll want to see about it when it comes up. It's coming up. Okay. So here is, you can see that it's in proper MLA format. Again, there we go. So here's my inserted page number up here in the upper right hand corner. Last name and the page number. So you're going to put in your page number, then you're going to go back and add your last name in front of that. Don't add this last name, don't add my last name, add your last name in front of the number. Over here is our heading. I made up a name for the student who wrote this. Actually, I wrote this, but I made up a student's name, Cindy Lou Who wrote this, and then there's my name, there's the course, and there is the date. Then here is the title, Using Rhetorical Strategies to Establish Effectiveness in How to Do Gender, is what Cindy Lou Who titled this. And then here is Cindy Lou Who's introduction paragraph that started with an attention getter, that thing about the snips and snails I was talking about. She mentions who the writer is of the article, what the writer's name is, what this is, a little summary of what it's about, and then narrowing it down to the thesis statement down here at the bottom, which you don't have to highlight yours and label it thesis statement, but I did on this sample so you could see that's what the thesis statement is. In order to effectively demonstrate their point, and of course I used plural because I had two authors for this, you only have one author. In order to effectively demonstrate their point that gender roles are flexible, that was the point that these authors were making, the authors used the rhetorical strategies of anecdote, definitions, and historical facts. And since I had three, I'll have 3 body paragraphs. You can use only 2 if you want to. You can do 3 if you want to. When we get to the first body paragraph, here's the topic sentence. Yours needs to have a topic sentence. One rhetorical strategy that Ferry and Wade use to demonstrate the flexibility of gender is anecdote. Then I needed to explain to my reader. Remember, we're going to write this assuming that the reader doesn't really know anything about writer's choices and things, and I use the word anecdote. I want to tell my reader what that is because the reader might not know what an anecdote is. So, anecdote is a short story that is told to illustrate a point. That's my definition, and then I give an example of where I find that in the text to further illustrate what anecdote is. And then, so I give that, and then comes the citation is just going to be the page number. And the citation becomes part of the sentence, so we put our period after the parentheses instead of at the end of the sentence. So 480, page 480 in parentheses there is part of my sentence now, so I put a period after that instead of at the end of the sentence. If I use something in quotation marks, like I do here, the story ends with the little boy further illustrating how wrong these rules can be when he says, that's my introduction. Here's my quotation. Everybody has a penis, only girls wear barrettes. If you want to know what that is all about, you can read that essay that I am writing about here. The quotation, and then the parentheses, then the page number, the end quote parentheses, and then your period. So I often refer to this part right here as quo-pair-punct. Quotation, parentheses, and then punctuation, period at the end. Quo-pair-punct. Might help you to remember that. But that's only if you only have to worry about the quotation marks if you're quoting directly from the text. Another paragraph with another topic sentence, a third paragraph with a third topic sentence, and then here is my conclusion. Thus, Ferry and Wade use rhetorical strategies to make their point that gender rules are flexible. That was a restatement, the cousin to the thesis statement that I used to begin with. First, they use the anecdote, and as the reader goes through and blah, blah, blah. And so you can read this. I'm not going to read it to you, but you can read this and see that I summarized the 3 points that I made. And then I've got to end it somehow. So here's how I ended it. So it seems that people are more than snip, snails, sugar, and spice. Sometimes people decide to be sugar-coated snails. And that's just my way of summarizing up what we were talking about to begin with, that in this particular essay, gender rules are flexible. All right, so I've provided that for you. And then I want you, after you create your rough draft of your essay, remember we come up with ideas, what we did this past week when we came up with the different choices that writer makes to make her point. And now we're ready to write the rough draft, organizing it the way that I suggested that you organize it. And then we want to get some feedback on it. You can continue to make corrections on it, revisions on it, but I want you to submit it to Smart Thinking. This is a requirement. It takes about 24 to 48 hours for them to respond. So next week, after you get your rough draft together, go ahead and submit it to Smart Thinking. When you get the response back from them, you're going to share that with me in this journal. Right here under graded assignment where it says Journal for Smart Thinking for Core Project 2 Rhetorical Analysis Essay. You're going to do it as, you're going to copy it and paste it into the journal, the feedback, and then you're going to add a couple of sentences at the end of their feedback saying how you actually used their feedback to improve your essay. That's the whole point of the Smart Thinking feedback, is so that you can make a better essay in the end. And then underneath that, for a graded assignment, here's the link to post your final essay after you have revised it, gotten your Smart Thinking feedback, revised it, made it as perfect as you can get it, and then you're going to submit it on this Turnitin, just the way you did the business letter assignment. And I'm giving you not till the end of this week to get that done, because that's going to take some time for you to get that, and some time to get your smart thinking feedback back. And so I'm going to ask you to put it, submit it on there, and I'm giving you until midnight on June 21st, so week after next. So revision is probably the most important part of the essay. Once you get it down on paper, you might feel like, I'm finished, but you're not. We want to revise it and make it as good as we possibly can. I did put one final document on here, Core Project 2 Rhetorical Analysis outline for revision, and you can open that document. It's probably a good thing to do after you apply what the smart thinking folks have said. And then you can follow this for revision. Here I spell out what your essay should have in it. So you can take a look at this before you do it for your smart thinking feedback, but you can but you definitely want to check back and make sure that your conclusion has everything, your formatting is right, and this is a great document that can just give you that once over look before you submit it. And remember, you have until the 21st to submit it. Okay, so how do you submit to smart thinking? That's the last thing that we want to look at. And my computer is not wanting to go back to the Moodle page, but give it a moment. It's still thinking up here about this document. All right, cool. Now I'm back at the Moodle page. All right, where it says smart thinking, click on that. When you open that up, you will see, so my computer is really slow here for some reason. But you will see the Smart Thinking website. Please go through and submit through this link instead of doing it, just typing in Smart Thinking and doing it, because Nash Community College has already paid for you to use Smart Thinking. And if you just go through on your own, they're going to want you to pay for this service. But if you use the link that I provide on the Moodle page, they'll recognize you as a student. They'll know who you are because you're signing in through the link on your Moodle page, and it's already paid for. So you definitely want to do it this way. You want to click on Log In as a Student. It's going to ask about system checks and all that stuff. You don't need to worry about that. It's going to ask you if you want to put install a mobile app. You can. You don't have to. And then you want to, what you want to do is click on Submit My Writing or Career Documents. That's the one you want to click on. Once you click on that, and it opens up, you want to go to the Essay Center, the very first choice over here. So you're going to click on Essay Center, and give it a chance to open up like this. See, it already recognized Deborah. It's going to recognize your name. It's going to have that up there. You're at the Essay Center. Your institution is Nash Community College. All that's already filled in for you because it recognizes you as a Nash student. And then it says the course level, the title, and that's what you want to put in. English 111 there is fine for that. Then you want to put in your writing title. This would be something, you can actually use the title from your essay, but this is something so that you can go back later and find the essay that you submitted. So use your own title, use rhetorical analysis, use core project 2, whatever you want to there, it doesn't matter. And then provide your assignment description. This is important because these tutors at Smart Thinking do not know what we've been talking about, do not have access to your document about this essay, and so you want to tell them. It says any special instructions or whatever, you want to tell them that you have, like it asks here for the expected length and the documentation style. So tell them I have to write a 2+ page essay in MLA format, Modern Language Association format, about the writer's choices that she makes in this essay. Tell them what essay it is, to get across her point that, and of course we're going to use Larissa McFarquhar, When to Take a Child from His Parents, and then to get across her point that the decision to take a child from his parents is a very complex one, because that's what it is that you're writing about. Then you're going to pick 2 areas in which you need help. I suggest main idea and thesis and content development. You can do any 2 of these, but you can only do 2. So you can go back and resubmit this actually and have it look for other things. But those are the 2 things that I'm going to be looking most for, is your main idea, thesis, and your content development. You want to leave this as first available, and then you're going to upload your writing here. You want to choose your file. If you have done a Google Doc, it will not accept a Google Doc. So you're going to have to go to your Google Doc and download it as a Word document. It will take, it tells you here what it will take. It will take a Word document. It will take a plain text file, a rich text format, and it won't take anything else. So it won't accept a PDF. It won't accept anything else, a Google Doc. You have to, so I'll show you how to do that really quickly. I'll just go back to one of my documents that I've created. Over here, up here at the top where it says File, if you click on that, you can see it says Download, and just choose Microsoft Word. That's the easiest way. Or you could choose rich text format or plain text. It'll read any of those. But if you just click Word, and then you can save, once you download this as a Word document, then you can choose that file with the .doc or the .docx at the end of it on there. And then there's even a little thing that you can click on here about how to change your file format to something it can read. Once you upload it, then you're going to submit it, and then you will get an email from them saying they've received it, and then you'll get another email from them saying how saying that your feedback is ready, and it will explain to you in the email how to get that feedback. If you have any question about how to submit to Smart Thinking, if you have any question about how to get back to your feedback, how to submit that feedback in your journal, just email me and I'll be glad to explain it further. Well, that's a lot to do for this week, but it's a short essay. It's pretty simple and straightforward. I've given you lots of information here that should be helpful to you. Reach out to me to let me help you. Don't become frustrated and just say, oh, this is too much, I can't do it. Just let me help you. I'll be glad to help you as much as you need. So that's what we're doing for this week, and I will talk to you next time.